Hey, welcome to your weekly bonus, Corner Späti. It is moi, Kieran, and I'm joined by vous.
Je suis Julia.
And toi.
Oh, do you mean me? It's Nick.
I love that you use the polite
Yeah.
for me.
Kieran knows to be
because I'm a lady.
Respect me.
Yeah.
No, for you it was toi.
Yeah. Oh.
But that was also like
Kieran's not
Respectful
familiar
or
enough with his own
disrespectful?
friends. He's just an outcast.
Yeah, I know. He's
Yeah.
making up his own. I love that. I take it.
I don't know how it works. I used to be so good at French, and then I never used it, and it's been
It's been a while.
It's been 15 years since I was good at French.
So
I mean, you're not missing out on much, like seeing the state of the election and all this, like. No worries.
That was actually my first day as a 13-year-old. Was like starting French class. Is like, yo, new language to be racist in just dropped. Let's give this a go. All right, yeah. So with us today we have Europe Subcommittee of the DSA International Committee member Flo. Say hello, Flo.
Hi, y'all. I'm Flo.
Yeah.
That was very American of you.
Flo can speak French. We have it on good authority. Don't let the accent confuse you. And today, this is our official very long election episode because there's 2 elections. Then we'll probably talk about what happened afterwards.
yeah.
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 We got so many elections coming up. I'm losing count.
Oh
you
my
mean the one
God.
that matters, the one that they might like.
That's right. The Slovenian General Assembly election.
Yes.
That's also being held on the 24th of April.
Yeah.
That's the only important election.
That was going to be the bit if we did the live show. It was just going to be like, welcome to the election show. And I just have a big picture of Yanis Janša up there.
Who's gonna win?
Who's going to win? It's going to be
Yeah.
Janša.
It's the same like Hungary, Serbia,
Or just like, the
France.
controversial move. The mayor of Nice has endorsed Janša. Right. But
All right.
Controversial move. Janša reposted Corner Späti picture of the German election,
That actually
which did happen.
That happened.
Damn.
that's so
I know.
close to
Coming
him.
up.
Like,
Yeah, we have the cloud now.
yeah, we got a lot of like right-wing Slovenian.
They were like,
that's how you know
You know,
need it. Like,
as I always be saying on this show, in reality, I'm 5'4". Stand on my money now. I'm 6'6".
So we're gonna talk about the French elections because there's a lot of things to get to. I've been deep into French stuff mostly just today, which was pretty great.
you saved yourself from a year and a half of chaos.
Yeah, because you guys have you're getting the long American style election stuff now over there. Like, yeah.
People don't know this, but I am the lone Francophile on this show. I don't show it very
That is
often.
not-
But
The reason we haven't talked too much about France is actually we love it and think everything they're doing is great. No criticism changing on
that's
it.
why I'm not allowed on the French episodes because I just become too
It's like
too
he's just
excited.
like he's always singing the Marseillaise, and
Yeah, I think Macron's cool. I don't know anything about politics. He's just French and he's the president.
instead of Marchand, he sings Macron. Macron.
that is. Ooh.
Yeah, so your number one De Gaullist podcast, Corner Späti.
The goal is-
So I guess we can start with a bit. You've got this great little bit on a historical recap of how the fuck did we get here, Flo? How did this all happen? What's going on? Why France do this? And you started in a great place that I always love to start when talking about France. Nicolas Sarkozy,
Our favorite president of all time.
All right.
Gaddafi's best friend.
So first, thanks y'all just for having me on. I guess I've been following Corner Späti for about since the start of the pandemic. Got into y'all's podcast and I'm a patron, and I love y'all's content. It's really great to have Anglophone content. In Europe, talking about really niche details. And so basically, in the French context, what we've been going through has been just perpetual conservative governments since the instauration of the Fifth Republic. So after World War II, we had this really centralizing constitution that put in place a lot of power in the hands of the president, right? So Charles de Gaulle and the Gaullists, people who supported the military liberation of France from the Nazis after World War II, we basically centralized a lot of power into their hands. And at that point, we've had just so much concentration of force into the president. So Nicolas Sarkozy really, seized on this in 2007 when he got elected on the slogan of we need to work more to earn more. So he instituted a lot of pro-austerity policies, right? This was only right before the 2008 financial crash. And as soon as that happened, it proved that like wealth inequality and financial bubbles will just like hit everyone no matter like, how hard you work. So through no fault of their own, workers like have been struggling since 2008, right? Basically, in this context, it was the perfect, cauldron for creating a stew of like left-wing activism. So in 2009, candidate named Jean-Luc Mélenchon and a bunch of left-wing activists leave the Socialist Party to create a party of the left, which is called Le Parti de Gauche, Party of the Left. And so basically it stands for eco-socialism, a new reinvigorated form of, left-wing ideology that corresponds to the 21st century. There's also the creation of the Nouveau Parti Anticapitaliste, NPA, new anti-capitalist party. They basically are a little bit more, far left, and they also, combine different, tendencies of Trotskyism within their organization. And at their height, they were like 20,000 strong. The Parti de Gauche was also very strong. It had like tens of thousands of members. But basically, you have this opening to the left after the 2008 financial crash. So 2012, Socialist Party President François Hollande gets elected. He says, finance is my enemy. So you also
that worked well.
Yeah.
End of episode. Everything was great.
He'll be disproved by his own, his own policies, like in the coming years. But in the 2012 election, you also have a pretty good score for the left. They get around 12%. So I think François Hollande was around like 20%. Mélenchon, party of the left, in combination with the Communist Party as an alliance. They form the Front de Gauche. They get 12%, right? So not too bad. But eventually, Mélenchon and the Front de Gauche, they call on voters to elect Hollande in a runoff against Sarkozy. So, it was kind of necessary at this time because, we really believe that the Socialist Party, they were at least, they hadn't been in power since the 80s. And, there was a good, chance that they could actually implement some, anti-austerity policies against, the broader tendency that was happening in Western Europe. So we really believed at that point in time that it was right to vote for François Hollande. But now, even right after, he immediately started to betray his campaign promises. So there was the Loi El Khomri that disrupted the 35-hour work week. So already, French people, we love to hate on work. We love to just be lazy and, have only 35 hours. But honestly, it makes more sense to have a 35-hour work week because then you can employ more people and then you can spread, labor and tasks to everyone so that you can have near full employment. But Le Loi El Khomri was proposed by the Hollande government. It eroded a lot of French labor laws. And so you had a lot of people out in the streets in 2014 saying why did Hollande just immediately betray his promises? He's just being against the cause of labor. Which is not typical of a socialist. But there's other things that, also pissed a lot of people off and that prove that, France is going into a more illiberal, state of affairs right now. So basically, with operations Serval and Barkhane, it led France into a almost decade-long intervention of Mali that has never, okay, so it's recently ended because Macron just took out troops couple months before this election. But basically we've been in Mali since
Putin
almost
rolled
9
in,
years.
baby.
I saw people from Mali wearing the Wagner Group shirts. They really hate France.
So it's we're so bad that even Russian mercenaries are better than French troops.
A very particular type.
Particular mercenaries like the Nazis.
With SS epaulets tattooed to his
I don't know
own
what you're
shoulders.
talking about. Russia's denazifying.
Yeah, no, I mean it's crazy. Like, we just stayed there for 9 years, nothing happened. But all of this started not because of Macron, but actually because Hollande, started the intervention around like 2013, 2014. So you have like militarization of French society, and you also have like this permanent state of emergency established in like 2015 after the terrorist attacks. So of course, like, these terrorist attacks are horrendous. We had multiple attacks in 2015, but after that, they use this as an excuse to just like over police like Paris and like touristic areas, and everywhere you could see police. At this time, I remember a lot of friends saying like, they were really scared because of the ambiance that was created, the atmosphere that was just created with like, having police just constantly at every corner. And
with assault rifles.
yeah, and it's crazy. It's crazy. You just like see tourists, and then right next to them, like taking photos, and then out of the blue, you just see like a bunch of buff guys with like assault rifles marching down the streets. Like,
scary.
It just makes you think like, when is this gonna end? When are we gonna feel like normal again? So,
but like, we could do the like March Madness table of Europe's most terrifying police, but I think France probably has in the bag. Maybe Spain's national police, just like pretending for like a couple of days that the reign of Franco never ended and just going ham on some Catalonians, but like the French police are just fucking terrifying.
Yeah, it's basically like this slow descent in towards chaos and paranoia and all this, and like on top of this, just neoliberal backstabbing, from what was proposed in the Socialist Party and like Hollande's platform in 2012. So, Hollande actually took his finance and economy minister to be like Emmanuel Macron. So it's crazy how, Emmanuel Macron, as neoliberal as he is, former investment banker from Rothschild, like that is the kind of guy that Hollande wanted to be his like finance minister. And he said like, finance is my enemy. It's like, black and white. It just doesn't,
well, you got to keep your enemies close, I guess.
By complete happenstance, and this is probably where my brain is at, because the only thing that I watched today was just like some French YouTube political channels, and then like an educational video about parasites. And I'm just, the only thing that I can think of now is those wasps that lay their eggs inside of caterpillars to just like destroy the caterpillar from the inside and grow.
That's Macron.
That's Macron in like Hollande's government.
He destroyed it and then took power.
Yeah, because it was just like, it is just amazing. Like, I guess we can get into the 2017 election now of just like Macron kind of like rises to power off the basis of a lot of people saying, well, I can't vote for the socialists because of all these economic things they did, so I guess I'm going to vote for the former economic minister of that government. You're like, oh, this is...
Sounds like another good story we know from Germany, 2021, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, definitely, yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how... I don't know, SDP, like, okay. Anyways, there's a lot of similarities we can draw to what's happening with... the Traffic Light Coalition and like this neither left nor right kind of vibe, Macron. All right, so I guess so you have like this security state put in place. You have neoliberal backstabbing and like this all these policies that are bad from the Hollande government. He leaves office with only 4% approval, which honestly, like if you think about like the margin of error, it could be like near zero. So, and currently the Socialist Party candidate this time around 2022, she only has like 2%. So we can see they just
someone's Hidalgo is doing worse than Hollande.
I just had to post the polls today from the show account with the Elizabeth Warren. She's electable.
That's right. That's how elections work, baby.
Yeah. No, I mean they're gonna they're doing like another François Hollande or Benoît Hamon to us. Like they just stay in regardless of their score. Anyways, basically, Hollande he left office with only 4% approval. We have the 2017 election. So at the beginning, this guy called François Fillon, traditional conservative of the Republican Party, he was seen as the original frontrunner, right? He comes from the right wing of Les Républicains, but he then got hit by a scandal called Penelope Gate. Because his wife,
I love that.
Penelope, she got a bunch of public money that he just like gave her, even though it was not meant. So basically,
you gotta treat her right.
Yeah,
ladies, if your man's running in French politics,
Yes.
don't date him. You're going to become a headline.
You gotta be a gate.
You're going to be a gate.
All right, so they got hit by this scandal. He loses popularity. All that goes to all the like center right, kind of people who are in Les Républicains. They now look positively on this young guy, up and coming political entrepreneur, never been elected. Basically saying I'm neither left nor right. He
Classic.
I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, he basically is right wing, but he takes a lot from the so-called progressive side of the Socialist Party, right? He becomes a darling of the media. So in France, 11 billionaires control like 81% of daily newspapers, 95% of weekly publications, and then like 47% of radio stations. So basically you can say like the billionaire class owns most of the media in France. So, whenever people say RT is the only thing in Russia or like, CNN.
It's not true. There's also
lie.
Russia.
There's Sputnik.
It gets far worse.
Yeah, RT is like the moderate one compared to
Russia.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that concentrated media control is still just like.
Yeah.
Because it's I feel like it's a similar story in a lot of other markets. Like I think Australia is quite the same. Of just like there's 12
Murdoch?
different TV channels. They're owned by the same like two guys, but like.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. I mean, like Murdoch Media happens in, US, Australia, all this, like all the Anglophone
UK.
places. And then like in France, we have our own version of this. So you have CNews and Canal Plus owned by a guy named Bolloré, extreme, ultra-conservative. He's now supporting Zemmour. And like they basically gave Zemmour like hours and hours a week to just be like an editorial journalist and, have no one criticize him. And he just had like a whole monopoly of like a whole channel, right, for hours and hours a week. And basically all this, we saw it in 2017 and now we're seeing it again in 2022. But to go back to 2017, you have Macron, darling of the media, only presents his political program 2 months before the election. So he rides on vague promises of like, I'm neither left nor right. This is really strategic because like the Socialist Party is discredited, but also the Republicans because, Penelope Gate and François Fillon, hit by scandals. So he capitalizes on all that. Interesting anecdote. Macron did his master's thesis on Hegel and Machiavelli. So you can see like the dialectic, neither left nor right. That's the dialectic with Hegel. And then with Machiavelli, you have scheming and shit. So that's
perfect centrist philosophy.
My scheming fucking dialectical, homie.
yeah.
Don't ask.
Oh my god.
The slave master dialectic, but I think being the master is good.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Macron, I hate learning about him because he's such a nerd.
Yeah.
It's just the sense of the thing that just drove me insane was that photo of him stealing valor
In the
And
hoodie.
in the hoodie.
hoodie.
But if you saw the full body, you could see his shoes in some of the pictures. He's wearing dress shoes in it.
Yeah.
Oh
The
my
man
God.
can't be normal.
Wear sneakers.
he can't.
such a nerd that he fell in love with his teacher at 14
I was about to say
and
that.
married.
Yes.
That is so scary,
Dating
bro.
his teacher. He's a teacher's pet.
I'm sorry, but if you knew that type of kid in school,
He probably went in a suit.
oh yeah, no, he's a roller backpack kind of kid, I'm sure, or briefcase to school kind of kid.
Oh my god, yeah.
But if you knew that kid in school and they got with the teacher, you're like, you know what, good for you, man. Good for you. Then you try to become president. It's like, no, stop.
Yeah, free.
Yeah. I'm letting you get away with your low key pedophilia shit where you're the victim or whatever, but don't become president.
Oh my god.
Yeah, no, I mean his current wife, she left her husband for him at when he was 15.
Yes.
It was, holy
Cute
shit.
guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
Look, it was a different time. Everyone was watching Cougarville on TV.
Oh my god.
It was the only country where that show was successful, France.
Yeah. All right. So, anyways, to continue, basically, There were a couple of other alternatives in 2017. So the Socialist Party, they held their own primary. I think they had like 1 million people participate in it, but they get like this guy called Benoît Hamon. He's the most left wing of the guys in the primary, and he was very uncharismatic, very pro EU, pro UBI, but he couldn't really explain his proposition for UBI. But basically, he ended up gaining only 6%, and he spent like 5 times more than Mélenchon per vote on campaigning. So Mélenchon had like a very cost efficient campaign. I think they got like 7 million votes, only spent like about €1.30 per vote, and then Benoît Hamon spent like almost €7 per vote and got like a way worse score. So Benoît Hamon even got the endorsement of the Green Party, which is like an up and coming party at the time. So, but he spent like he even got more hours of speaking time on national TV. But this really bad score just was the death of the Socialist Party. So they got 6%, Mélenchon 19.5%. And it's actually really interesting to remember on, back in the 2017 like election, even Anglophone media was saying like, oh, it's just Macron-Le Pen since the, first round. It's not even like the second round. And people are saying, oh, well, it's only the far right versus, this new neoliberal centrist that's like really cool and hip, and
cool guy.
He speaks to the young people. And like Le Pen is just like old reactionary, they want to represent deindustrialized France and all this like backwards,
You say Macron speaks to young. Sorry, you say something like Macron speaks to young people, and all I can think of is because his wife let him speak in class one day. It's like a bring your husband to work.
Oh, God.
Go on, sorry.
But I gotta say, like, Mélenchon is a great speaker, so I get that he got so much approval, even though he didn't have the money to put it into his campaign.
This is also the election where he was doing that like experimental shit with the holograms and stuff like that, as trying to reach more people.
Yeah, and he did it again. I mean, we'll get into it, but just yesterday, like, he did a hologram meeting again in 12 cities, which is so cool.
That's so cool.
Like, 12 cities.
You know what's cooler than one hologram? 11 holograms.
Yeah.
Star Wars? I don't know.
No, but it was good. It was like, I watched part of it. It was like a good meeting, and you could see like all those rooms, like all those amphitheaters were so full, like. It's really strategic. Anyways, basically,
I love Mélenchon being just like projected like Darth Sidious.
I was about to say it reminds me of Star Wars. It's like, damn, senator speaking.
It's all about the Republic.
No, but to be honest, some of the aesthetics, I'll say, even as a as a kind of like volunteer activist for this campaign, like I feel like some of the aesthetics could be improved a little bit. It's kind of weird and cheesy at sometimes, but honestly, at the end of the day, like when you have 12 meetings simultaneously in like a bunch of like mid-sized cities, all across France, it's actually really strategic. So this was a good move on his part. And anyways, with good campaigning, Mélenchon got 19.5%, and it was actually like pretty evenly split. I wouldn't say it was like Macron-Le Pen since the beginning. Macron only got 24%, Le Pen 21%, Fillon 20%, Mélenchon, once again, good score, and then Hamon 6%. So death of the Socialist Party was the outcome. And then, Macron wins round 2 with 65% against Le Pen. She did particularly bad in the debate. All right, so, but what has he done? What has Macron done from 2017 to now? We still have like millions of people in poverty. COVID hit people particularly bad. 8 million people in France need food aid. Like 300,000 people are still homeless, although Macron said he'd end homelessness by the end of his mandate. And
that's such. Sorry, I just want to say I did not know about that until you put it in the notes. I'm like, that's such a wild thing for a centrist to promise. Like, I thought like the English speaking world has it like down pat. Like you don't even pretend to people that that's a possibility. Like, no, you can't do it. It's like a horror that we have to live with. There will always be homeless people. You're giving away the game, Macron. You're not meant to say you can end it.
I mean, I think Jacinda Ardern from New Zealand, she also promised the same kind of thing, but like, obviously she's not keeping. Well, I mean, anyways, like she's outflanked by the left.
The one true country that has eradicated homelessness in the world. That's right. the Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
I mean, yeah.
I've been watching too much of the vibes that are North Korean state TV. I highly recommend it for if you just want to like zone out.
I need a break from RT.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, honestly, when you watch some of like French public media, like it's getting to that level. They just like give, it's very strategic how they do it, but they basically serve as like propaganda for Macron, right?
Yeah, did you see Macron's like coming face while he was singing?
Wait, what?
Wait, what? I haven't seen this yet. Wait, what is it?
I want to see that
I've been
later.
posting
you
it a
have
lot.
to show me.
Yeah, I'll show you after, I guess, because it's a. But like they were just singing. I want to say the national anthem.
They are.
Yeah, okay, they sing the national anthem, and he rolls his eyes back into his head and closes them while singing.
What is it called? Oh
yeah, he did an Aihegawa face. Yeah,
of the
he
year.
did the face from hentai. Yes.
Okay, I haven't seen this yet, but I'm not sure if I want to.
Do you want to? Open a private browser.
Yeah, post your horniest Macrons.
Oh my god.
But yeah. Sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, all right. So, other than rolling his eyes back into his head and making weird faces, Macron basically has he basically makes up lies about unemployment, saying it goes down, but actually all the jobs that have been created under him have most of them are just short-term contracts or Uber drivers or delivery boy, all these things that don't really count. But he's also radiating people from the lists of unemployed, benefits. So basically,
we do that too.
He artificially says that unemployment goes down, but obviously it's because he just doesn't want people to be on unemployment benefits. And moreover, 13 people are unemployed for each job there is, right? So it's not like you can cross the street and get a job. Like Macron says that in whenever he's people talk about unemployment, but
he's chastised people at union protests for saying hey, you should get a suit, and get a job, and you'll get a real job. Which I had to post that when he was doing the whole I'm in a hoodie thing. I was like, you're not in a hoodie.
That's the first time he's ever worn a hoodie in his life.
Probably. So crisp. We need to stop talking about the hoodie photo.
Yeah, so he has all these terrible gaffes where he just says really tone deaf stuff to just normal working class people, but obviously he gets away with it because he's just handsome and he just manages his media presence really well, right? He often doesn't really yell too loudly or whatever, contrary to I don't know, Mélenchon or whatever. But anyways, all of this is just covered by this veneer of acceptability and liberal politeness and etc. But deep down, people are really suffering, especially in overseas departments. It's so you have the territories and departments of Guadeloupe, La Réunion, and Martinique, which are really plagued by environmental degradation and gold mining in Guadeloupe, for example, or in the French Guiana. You have all these different environmentally destructive problems that have not been resolved. So chlordécone in Guadeloupe. These toxic chemicals that were used in the banana fields that affects 90% of people that are born there in that overseas territory. We just have all these problems that have not been resolved, extremely high unemployment, nearing about 30% in some of the overseas territories. So Macron has done nothing for them, right? And despite all this inequality, Macron just suppresses the wealth tax. He suppresses all these taxes. He gives huge tax benefits to big corporations through a tax credit for creation of jobs that only created 100,000 jobs, but it's 100 billion euros of public funds, that were suppressed that we could have been using for healthcare, for schools, and all this was really necessary for COVID, but it just it was just given to corporations. And it didn't trickle down because almost
surprise.
Basically only a handful of jobs were created in comparison to the benefits that, all these corporations got. So there's other things that are really bad about Macron, even for middle-class people. Climate policy has been at the forefront of middle-class concerns in France for the last 10 years, I would say. So the Green Party is an up and coming, party that gets more, higher scores in upper class or middle class areas in, big metropolitan cities. So
they've got a couple of mayors, don't they? Like, was it Grenoble or something?
Yeah. So Eric Piolle of Grenoble, who was a candidate, he's actually more left wing on a lot of economic policies, but he did not win the Green primary. But you can see, this is because climate is actually a legit concern for a lot of middle class people in France, and rightly so, because it affects everyone. But French people are willing to go to the left on climate issues. But Macron has been doing the exact opposite when it comes to climate and environmental policy. He's been condemned for climate inaction by the Council of State 2 times because he hasn't respected his carbon budget. He also failed to meet objectives in terms of renewable energy development, and he lied about it. And his ecology minister also lied about this, saying that we met our standards, we met our objectives, but no, it's not true. He also organized this whole climate convention and said that in 2019, he basically said, I'll take all of your propositions and apply them unconditionally. But he only took 10% of the proposals at the end. He reduced all their proposals to 40% originally, and then he only took 10 without filter. Another 30% in what he took was basically taken with a bunch of amendments. So they just watered down everything that the Citizens Climate Convention did. They also cut the Ministry of Ecological Transition by 13%. So basically we can go point by point on all this stuff. He supports the Common Agricultural Policy, which is really bad because it puts a lot of benefits in the hands of big agribusiness and not in the hands of small farmers. So another thing, accepts pesticides and glyphosate, which is Roundup created by Monsanto. He promised that he would get rid of that, but everything that Macron has done, he has not kept his promises on. All right, so during Macron's mandate, there were a bunch of social movements that shook the country. Not all of them were good, to be honest. Not all of them were 100% left wing. I would say it's a mixed bag, but let's go through some of them. In 2018. You had the Gilets jaunes movement, so it was to protest against rising fuel taxes. A lot of people know about this from social media and some.
I think that it's set to go down in price in the next couple of years. Definitely not a concern.
So we basically had a lot of people in the countryside, up in arms about the rising gas prices. A lot of citizens' occupations took place, a lot of people marching in the streets that eventually, led to social, left-wing political forces and far-right political forces to get integrated into the Gilets jaunes protests. So we saw that the Gilets jaunes, they didn't really have a strong centralized leadership. They didn't have concrete demands. Eventually you had some people that got together to form some demands calling for democratic reforms, devolution of power to municipalities, the power to revoke elected officials, and to propose citizens initiatives and stuff like this. So all of that was part of this spark that could have been seized on by the left. I would say that we still haven't found a way to completely integrate all the propositions of the Gilets jaunes movement because it's so wide-reaching. But La France Insoumise and some political forces on the left are trying to seize on that energy in this election to go against Macron. So.
Just before we move on from that, because it is important. We've talked about the Gilets jaunes on this podcast a couple of times before, and. I think it's worth mentioning that so many other countries tried to copy the movement.
Oh yeah,
and all of them turned out incredibly right wing.
Yeah.
All the ones outside of France, there was no left wing element. The Yellow Jackets in Ireland is still a weird far right political force. I think maybe Belgium had some left wing Gilets jaunes, but yeah.
Yeah, so to be honest, it is a mixed bag, and that proves the point of why the left needs to be organized, why we need to have centralized and democratically organized leadership, and etc. So during the Gilets jaunes movement, you had a lot of people thousands that were injured. Some were even killed by the police. So we have an example of a woman in Marseille, elderly woman in her apartment who was suffocated to death by fumes of tear gas launched by police officers. as a protest took place in the streets below. So it's like stories like this are actually kind of common, and it's really, it's really sad that it got to that point. But people are really up in arms, and they have real legitimate vindications against like the police and the state of affairs that Macron is instituting, and the authoritarianism that he is using to crack down on activists. So similarly, the climate activists that fought against Macron's backstabbing and like going back on his objectives, like they also had a bunch of protests and against Macron, and there were professional activists from like Greenpeace, etc., that were also spearheading different initiatives, but there was a lot of criminalization of them as well, like people who were taking down his portrait taking down Macron's portrait in city halls across France. They also got like repressed by the police, and just for like doing basic, I would say basic like activism. Normal stuff is just being repressed by a so-called liberal government. So to continue on, I guess we have like other movements like rail strikes in the winter of 2019. That was a moment where the left could have seized upon like working class people taking matters into their hands, right? And especially transport strikes are really important because it really paralyzes other sectors of the economy. So that was a movement that got cut short. That was cut short by the 2020 coronavirus pandemic. So it was difficult to seize on that. But then you had like the anti-pass sanitaire movement. So in France, we had a sanitary pass. You had to scan your pass to go to bars, etc. So this actually didn't really work, to be honest, because you had like 5 waves of coronavirus in France. We're going through a 6th right now. So
we stopped counting here.
Yeah,
we have like 100,000 people that died due to coronavirus in about a year. So Macron and his vaccine rollout was really terrible. We actually invested a bunch in the national pharmaceutical industry, Sanofi, and they just during the pandemic they fired hundreds of people. So it was terrible. We didn't create our own vaccine, and we really had the means to do so. And they actually just abandoned this national project.
The pharmaceutical industry in France is huge. I think it's the richest company in France is a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, I mean, Sanofi is huge, and as you said, we definitely have the means to produce our own vaccine and not be dependent on the U.S. For Pfizer vaccines, and we just didn't do that. It was there were times when they proposed oh, you need to get your dose de rappel, you need to get your third dose. And then you had an influx of people going to reserve their third dose on the website, the government website. And then it just crashed, right? So they announce things and then they just don't follow up with it. And then, they don't have the capacity to deal with the COVID crisis. And this was a really big delegitimizing thing for Macron's government, I would say. Anyways, I mean, he got rid of the mask mandates, so we don't have to have masks at work now since 2-3 weeks ago. Basically, it's a non-issue at this moment in time. There's other issues that are more important. So in the past year, the far right has really dominated, political priorities in the media with things like immigration, security, fighting against feminism, because that's totally necessary at this moment, and anti-identity politics. Even though we're going through a pandemic, we're going through climate change. Yeah. The biggest problem in France is actually feminism and ID politics.
Totally. Women.
Yeah.
Finally. A country for guys.
I mean, yeah, it's just depressing. If you just turn on any channel on TV, especially C News and BFM TV, it's becoming more and more like Fox News in the US. So that's where we see the rise of Éric Zemmour, just like we saw the rise of Macron in 2017 with, him being the darling of the media. Zemmour is also similarly, a guy which has, I would say, a curated kind of image that, is only facilitated by his monopoly of media time and airtime. I would say
because I think it is the job of fucking leftist shit posters to remember all the terribly stupid things this man has done. The banger hits of like, I don't think journalists can understand my complex thoughts.
I forgot about that.
I view myself as like a Jupiter figure. That time he insulted that one kid for calling him Manu. For was like at a parade for like 10 or so minutes, just chastising like a teenager for the pettiest shit. But yeah, like that's that, and like all of this, like this whole strategy you were talking about, especially with the climate change stuff, of just like, hey, I'm going to implement everything, and then only does 10%. That's the kind of tactic that you can only really get away with if you're like a leader of a country that has the media firmly on your side. Mm-hmm. Like nothing of what you do actually matters. All that matters is what you say, because that's the stuff that gets printed ad nauseum.
Yeah, and it's just all the more disappointing to see like people like Eric Zemmour, just being even more to the right of that, right? So, all right. So basically, we already know as the left that the far right is just wrong on everything when it comes to immigration. They blow everything out of proportion.
I've heard this new French social theory. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's I'm going to just hear it as the Great Replacement.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like people, they just fantasize about like the so-called Great Replacement, and of course, like it's not even true that even if we like get rid of all this like civilizational symbolism with like, I don't know, Christian Europe being dominated by like the Muslim Middle East, like even if you just consider it in terms of numbers, like there were only like 100,000 asylum seekers that came into France in like 2015, 2016, when like the so-called wave of immigrants came, right? So it's not even a wave. So basically, even though thousands of like migrants are dying in the Mediterranean like these past 10 years, we see like the far right is just seizing upon any opportunity to demonize Muslims, to demonize feminists as well, because like although sexual violence against women has increased since 2018 by like almost 20%, you just like people are just seizing on any opportunity to denounce like the left-wing identity politics that comes a little bit from like Paris universities, and saying like, oh, Islamo-gauchisme or Islamo-leftism is like a problem in our universities, they're brainwashing our kids, etc. And first of all, that's not true. Actually, the far right is brainwashing our kids, because like you can like literally like they have, in some universities you have like open monarchists, or like people who are just like basically crypto fascists, like saying like we should restore the monarchy, and they give conferences, they give like whole, they write whole books.
The monarchists are strong.
It's like
nerd country.
We did this whole thing about like the monarchists when one of them slapped Macron. So like we talked about that.
It literally like
it's a wild thing for like to be a monarchist at a place where like all the right wing guys are so about like the republic, like the whole thing is like the holy like republic basically.
I think the only like one thing that I can really say about France is France like does a lot of political ideas, both good and bad, that you're just like that like you read about it on paper and it's like that won't work. Like the idea of like conflating like the kind of like post 9/11 Islam scare with the left. Like America tried to do that and it didn't really take off, but France is like, nah, fuck it, Islam is leftists. You're one, that baby over there, that's an Islam leftist. Whatever I don't like is Islam is leftist. There's like we had that one headline article in Germany, I can't remember, it was a big publication where they said the term woko haram.
Welt, baby.
Welt,
yeah, that was Bill,
No, it was Welt.
It's the intellectual Bill.
The smart people for smart people.
That's a
smart reference, because you have to know about Boko Haram to get the joke.
Yeah, I got the joke. Yeah, no, my main man Ulf Polshot kept just posting that.
Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like a term that like we all had fun with that, because like that has just like not become a term. Like if you say that, people are like,
it's a good term.
It's a good term, but if you say it in like a pub, people are like, what the fuck are you talking about? You're on, you need to log the fuck off. And I'm like, I do, yes. But like, and then France is just like, wokiste. And it's like you're a major political figure and you just talk about wokism destroying the country. You're just like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
it just works here.
Yeah.
No other politician could pull off the hologram thing.
No.
And you write that down on paper, you're like, that's not going to work.
I mean,
and
that's
then
cool,
John
though.
does it.
Like, for a different reason.
No.
He would hate doing it, though.
Yeah,
He wants to
exactly.
do the individual
Come on.
rallies.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, he likes the attention.
Don't shit on Mélenchon.
Like I say, don't shit on Trump. I'm like, I would never.
But like, yeah, it's a lot of ideas written down on paper that you would just think that couldn't possibly work. And then here's the political atmosphere of France. And you're like, all right, sure. I guess it's working here to some extent. Oh, God.
All right.
Yeah. I think at this point, we can move on to the candidates.
Yeah.
And,
All right. So
coming in with the chair.
That's a different song. I'm sorry.
It is.
Nick,
but,
you're gonna have to do this 12 times because there's like 12 candidates.
Yes, please.
the soundboard setup.
Yeah, I can just do different ones. What is it, like the ESPN
Well, you-
baseball on Sunday?
Oh, hang on.
Don't waste them all. You
No,
already did one.
We're going to introduce a candidate and we need a song. All right. So
Yep.
first candidate on the list before Flo actually tells us what this
Ooh.
guy's about. Zemmour of Reconquest Party.
Reconquête.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm racist. I don't know.
So yeah, all right. Zemmour is I think it means like olive in Arabic. Actually, this guy is actually an Algerian Jew. So apparently he made a new Nazi party in France called Reconquête, named after the reconquest of Spain by Christians in 1400s.
Beautiful.
So yeah, once
Love that
again,
reference.
playing on the civilizational battle of fighting against like the Great Replacement, etc. So his party is about random bullshit. Like hating immigrants and Muslims for no reason, although the major crises of climate change, unemployment, etc.
Sorry, my favorite bullshit Zemmour concern. We talked about this last time we talked about France. Complaining that in French schools they don't learn the subjunctive anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
God damn it.
Literally
I had to learn it.
literally in his program it says, I want school to be about reading, writing, and counting. And it's like literally,
No way.
I don't want to hire teachers. I don't want to reduce the working hours. And so
Reading, writing, and
it's like
reading, writing, and counting. Just like him going on a polemic about those things that you pull on to tell you that the cow goes moo. This is destroying France.
I mean, moo, yeah, he's really big into like rural France. He loves rural France. He does all of this. Like, I want every church tower of your little village to be a beacon for the reconquest and shit like that. Like, I had to fucking read one of his translate one of his speeches. It was wild. It was wild.
Naming your political party after like the closest thing to the Holocaust that happened in the 1400s. Just like Spain killing every last Muslim and Jew in the fucking country. Yeah. Great stuff, some more. So he's doing poorly, right?
Yeah. No, like definitely since the past 3 weeks, he's just been going down with Valérie Pécresse aussi. So,
what happened to rural France?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to
Where's the beacon that shouts?
His name is Lassalle.
Yeah, no, but to be honest, actually, Zemmour, he tries to pivot as he tries to like be a syncretic candidate that synthesizes like the bourgeois upper class of like rich places and big metropolitan cities and the working class far right in the countryside. So it's like really playing on both, and that's actually where he diverges from Le Pen, who is I guess the so-called like the better right-wing candidate, if that's possible, but like
more successful. Let's use that term.
Yeah, but I mean,
more focus on the working class.
Let's
say it like that. Yeah, not trying to be the bourgeois.
But like that kind of like syncretic shit is like genuinely more dangerous if it works. Like the I think the lesson of the last like maybe 10 years is that like populism as we understand it, of just like the real French people versus this like elite that we're not going to really define, which is what, if I understand correctly, is kind of like National Rally and Le Pen's kind of strategy does hit a wall. And it does seem like, from the analysis I've read so far, it seems like Zemmour's strategy is basically not really like, he didn't really think he was going to win this, but he's planning to be there to pick up the pieces when Le Pen inevitably like loses again. He's
Yeah, he said that he would support her if she gets to the second round. And like it's definitely true that, you know, they're all in the same, like, basically side together.
Sure.
I would say, yeah, I mean, y'all had Cole Stengler, who was on like a couple weeks ago, right? But I mean, he said that, you know, the image always pales in comparison to the original, right? So Zemmour actually draws more support from the far right, I would say, organically, because he's just willing to like say the most deranged bullshit, you know.
Yeah,
because he can.
Yeah, because he has nothing to lose, and, you know, at the same time, that's part of like being, you know, not a professional politician, because like he was a editorial journalist, basically. Never did investigative reporting, but he was always just like on TV talking about whatever, you know, was passing in the headlines. So he made his way into politics just by, you know, talking shit about people and talking shit about like what's going on in the news, right? So I would say, like, you know, he just doesn't really have anything to lose. I think the best thing for him now that he's losing in the polls is, you know, getting book deals. So maybe he's thinking of being like a far right intellectual after this. Anyways,
it's always what you do.
Anyways, like, you know, we've had this in the past where like a guy named Charles Maurras in I think like 1920s, they tried to find a way to bring the monarchists and the far right Republicans together to, you know, like get those rich bourgeois people from like the big cities and the countryside, you know, together. So it's like, it's something to keep in mind. Like, no matter the result of the election, we should keep in mind, you know, the rise of the far right in France is going to pass through like something like Zemmour, something like syncretism. So continuing on, you got Le Pen from Le Rassemblement National, National Rally. Basically, she's improving her image since 2017.
Front National. That's why they changed the name.
Exactly. That was actually part of it, you know, just like trying to like
formerly known as Blackwater Group, formerly known as Academia. I love that name change. Yeah. So.
I mean, if you call it National Front, like, I mean, that's kind of...
I cannot stress enough, maybe it's different in France, but the National Front branding has not, like, successfully been dislodged in the other countries. Like, everyone just still says National Front. Mainly because this word is too hard to say. Rassemblement. No one can do that.
Yeah, but basically they've been doing that to improve their image. They are less anti-EU than last time around. They also, you know, they're trying to, I guess, pivot to working class people more, and but not as much this time. I would say they find themselves in a weird position because they're like outflanked to the right by Zemmour. And there's also, continuing on, there's so Le Pen is like second in the polls right now, around 20% to 25%. But there's a couple of other like far right candidates that we can maybe talk about. Nicolas Dupont-Aignan of Debout la France, Up with France. He's a representative of like more Tucker Carlson kind of national conservatism. So he's not really like worth, you know, I don't know, speculating about. He's probably going to make like less than 4%, but he last time
probably talks about the real issues, like how the feminization of France means that you can't eat a ham sandwich.
Yeah. I mean, like they're all,
which is apparently a real issue. I found out.
Well,
yes.
Oh, jeez.
That like a ham baguette is like some like national treasure of like cultural signifiers of the right.
Yeah, literally
in France.
Seriously?
In France. Oh,
why?
okay.
How?
I'm not lying.
Yeah. I was watching a conference one time, and basically, like a student
got a ham
at a business school was like asking a political candidate, like, what do you think about like not being able to get a ham sandwich at a bakery? Like, this is a big issue in my mind. Like, you have to respond to this question. This is like anxiety. Like, this is giving me anxiety. Like, our future is like lost.
Yeah, I know nothing about French. Yeah, I know nothing about French politics, but this about the ham sandwich.
I'm gonna leave the rest of the episode. The fucking ham baguette, like it's so fucking funny. As it's like there's just an entire contingency of French, like the real French people be like, no, French food can also be shit. Like this, I put ham in a baguette.
That sounds dumb. Shit, that sounds amazing. It is amazing.
Oh, we're getting ham baguettes after this.
I'm full.
But yeah, okay, so this is great. You say Tucker Carlson, I'm just imagining a French man with the like confused puppy dog face that Tucker Carlson makes when he's listening intently. So okay, the other candidates on the right who they're not particularly polling too well, but you know they're still, they got their signatures, they're on the ballot. Florian Philippot.
Oh,
that's how I'm pronouncing it.
Yeah, he did not. Yeah, Florian Philippot of Les Patriotes. He did not get his.
He didn't get his signatures.
So he actually dropped it. He only got one, but basically he's.
That was
for anyone who knows. For anyone who doesn't know, 500 is the cutoff.
Does he have any friends?
499 to go, baby.
Like, does he have any friends that believe in him?
None of them are elected.
Yeah,
they needed all.
I mean, I know.
Yeah.
But
he was the one who was like the big anti-lockdown guy, right?
Yeah,
he was, like, leading the protests. Yeah,
he appeared at every single one
he would speak. Yeah, and I'm like, who's this guy? Like, he looks important, and then you look him up, he's like, he's not that important.
Yeah, he wasn't on it. Yeah.
But in a way, so he was like the number 2 guy in Le Pen's party before he dropped out and created his own. And then the guy Dupont-Aignan mentioned before, he was like supposedly going to be Marine Le Pen's top pick for prime minister. But anyways, these guys don't really matter too much. I would say they just represent, you know, like this pool of competition that Zemmour and Le Pen have on the far right. So I would just say, like, in France we have a lot of options, so anything is possible. Going further to the left, you have.
Sorry. We're giggling because one of the candidates that we're not going to talk about because he's not important is called Freddy Fish.
Freddy Fish.
Yes.
Frédéric Poisson.
Frédéric Poisson, who I will be calling Freddy Fish. Good
There's
Catholic
also
boy.
someone named Philip Kisses.
We'll get.
Oh yeah.
Who's Philippe Bisou?
He's not running for president, but
what is his name?
he's a political activist. Yeah.
Okay, we can't get distracted by top tier names.
Yeah.
We have to talk about the actual top tier candidates.
Okay.
So yes, I think next.
He's good, by the way. Like, he's a lefty. He had a very small party, but yeah.
Yeah, fair. So next we have what was meant to be like. When we last talked about France, this was someone who was like actually everyone thought was probably going to make it into the second round. A lot of people were putting their money on that, and now she's not doing well. Valérie Pécresse of Les Républicains.
Yeah. So she won a primary in the Republican Party with significantly less votes than last time. Like I think like something like 2 million people voted in 2017 in the Republican primary. Now is only about 100,000, and they got a lot less people watching televised debates. But anyways, Les Républicains is just going downhill. I would say this election we could probably predict would be like the death of the Republican Party. I mean, maybe that's ambitious to say, but Valérie Pécresse has no charisma. No charisma.
Recycling Atlantic op-eds from 2015.
Yeah.
France.
But like, she is eaten by both sides on the right and the so-called like center right as well, because like Emmanuel Macron is just taking her propositions, like for example on state pension funds, like she's just getting like owned by Macron from the center right, and then from Zemmour Le Pen to the far right. So she has no original propositions, says her measures will be financed by austerity savings, and like she's the most personally wealthy of all candidates, really out of touch with like all the rural candidates that
she won the Parisian election, right? That was her like.
Yeah. The regional elections in Ile-de-France, the greater metropolitan area. So
that was it.
We are living under her right now, and austerity is definitely not good. Like even in her own region, she has like bus drivers going on strike like periodically to just like protest the austerity that she's imposing on the region. So what's interesting is the future of the Republican Party in France, because regardless of what happens in the election, like they did their primary, they got this guy Alex Ciotti winning first place, and he is so far right that the only thing that he says differentiates the Republican Party from the National Rally is their ability to govern. So basically he's like, and he's saying like, essentially, yeah, we are the far right. Just give us a couple of years. Like we're just like the ones who are, in place to govern. We have the experience, to just let us do the same thing as the far right. It's really disturbing, but
I've been watching Valérie Pécresse's campaign a good bit, because I thought, like a lot of people a couple of months ago, that she was probably going to make it into the second round, and this would be kind of some sort of revitalization, rather than it kind of looks like what's happened to like the Socialist Party in 2017 might happen to this Republican now, or maybe next election. It seems like another, like a handful of other fumbles is like I watched a rally she held. I think one of the first ones she held after like winning the Les Republican. Sorry, the Leslie Repubs, the
lesbian section of the Republican Party.
That would be such good branding if they're for the terrible LGBT wing of Les Républicains. But sorry, her first rally after winning the primary, it was very like she mentioned le grand remplacement. She like the entire campaign, entire like speech she held, she was like constantly comparing herself to like other to the far right, basically saying like, here's why they're bad and here's how I'm not them, without like putting any positive message about like what she would actually do, just that she won't be them. And I think the other really embarrassing thing was a lot of like Les Républicains, like people from former cabinets, like especially under Sarkozy, like did not endorse her. I believe a handful of people from Les Républicains like started endorsing Le Pen. And
that's not a surprise, actually.
It's not a surprise in terms of like you look at these people's in their personal politics or whatever, but it's just like there's no party discipline. That's more the surprise.
But that's like a general, like in French politics, quite the thing.
It's
like,
becoming more of a thing now.
It's not like you have it in the US where everyone is like saying, okay, like never Trump, but actually yes, Trump. I mean, look at everyone founding their own party.
I mean, it's like one thing that seems to be happening, and like as kind of like what Flo's been saying as well. There's these two conventional parties in France, supposedly quote unquote conventional parties, and they're kind of just like collapsing.
Both of them, I mean, it's a thing that was like predicted for Germany as well when it comes to CDU and SPD. Like,
I mean, the vote share of them combined has been like consistently going down. We're just not like there yet. It's
like the end of the große Volkspartei.
Exactly, but the similar things are happening with. We haven't got to them yet, but the Socialist Party, Parti Socialist, where like a lot of their like mayors and former Hollande government people are either like, I think like one of them has endorsed Mélenchon, but a lot of them are endorsing like Macron. They're not endorsing Hidalgo. Just
lousy little centrists.
Basically.
That's not a surprise either.
Yeah, I know everyone hated the Hollande government, but actually it was good. So we're going to vote for the spiritual successor of it. Yeah, it seems it's a bit chaotic, but I guess that leads us nicely to
exactly who we're
Anne
talking
Hidalgo,
about.
Running currently on aggregate polling at 2%.
2%.
So it's like big things.
It's the future of France. 2%, baby. It's like
there's like 4 days left. We still got this.
I can do that. Just turn it around.
Yeah. The advisors come in and I was like,
you saw what our like Social Democrats did.
over the space of like half a year.
I know, I was joking. Go on.
But like,
It can't be another Olaf Scholz.
yeah. I think, maybe you can tell me more about Hidalgo, but like every person I've heard talk about her, like in like Vox Pops of France, it's always like, I don't really like dislike her. I just really fucking hate the Socialist Party now. Like, I just won't vote for them. But yeah, tell me about Hidalgo.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess, the Socialist Party is just so discredited that it, like, whatever candidate it chooses, it'll just like tank, right? But Hidalgo, she's not good for a couple reasons, right? So she said she wouldn't run for president, but like that was only 2 years ago. During the municipal elections, when people were kind of like, oh, this is up in the air. Maybe you want to, pivot after winning the winning position as mayor of Paris. Maybe you want to go be president. Well, she said no, and then she changed her mind because, like, people in her party said you should run, you should be our figurehead. We have no one else but you. And so at that point, you see like, this party's dead. Like, there's no one. Like,
if that is your candidate.
If the person you choose doesn't want to be president, and then she says, oh, well, you're forced, it's like, bro, like your party's dead. Just like leave at that point.
I mean, you could have the thing that then like Italy had with their presidential election recently, where you just
he didn't want to be president.
You just end up back in that role no matter what.
I mean, if this is politics, I have to insist on the strict rule of just only people who don't want to be president.
Yeah.
Like, people who just fucking hate the job. Like one of the first like NATO general secretaries was like that. He was just like, this sucks. I hate this. I don't think NATO's good, actually.
Well, yeah, good.
But oh god, it's very funny.
Even NATO is right about NATO.
But like this is a I only saw like footage of her for the first time. I think like a lot of media has decided just no, why cover her? It's pointless. The first footage I saw of her was at the the agricultural fair that apparently all the politicians went to. I got very obsessed with this because it was just a lot of footage of politicians like holding a goat. But then it was also very shortly after Russia invaded, so they were talking about like the SWIFT system while holding a goat. And we need to sanction Russia more. Anyway, I'm gonna pet this cow. That was the thing that was like, you're not a good candidate, because I saw Anne Hidalgo try to pet the cow and the cow recoiled.
That's not a good sign.
That's not a great sign. The cow has rejected you, and so have the French people.
So have 98% of French people.
Oh my god.
It's honestly kind of pitiful, but anyways, I mean, there's legitimate reasons to be kind of angry about like what she's done on the municipal level in Paris. So like she supports the Olympic Games, right? There's a lot of ecological reasons, even like socialist reasons to be against
the machine that destroys cities.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. If you're like, a true like socialist kind of that,
so
do not support the Olympics.
The Olympics should only be at the top of Mount Olympus every year.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see the problem with this.
Well, it wouldn't destroy the economy if it was like a seasonal thing. Like,
yeah.
It could. We don't have time.
Yeah. No, but so she literally destroyed part of these working class gardens in Aubervilliers, one of the poorest suburbs of Paris, and so to create like a solarium, like a sunbathing place for Olympians and stuff. So
fuck that.
Literally,
Who needs
against
a
the working
solarium?
class
Athletes.
No, seriously. If you think any regular Olympics is just going to be the world's fittest people all fucking like crazy, then the one held in the quote unquote city of love is going to be a giant fuck fest. They need to get their tan on. It's important. I will burn various arrondissements for this.
Oh god.
Yeah. So and other things, she opened. She did an opening ceremony for a glamorous department store in Paris with right next to Bernard Arnault, CEO.
Yes.
Yeah, he's like the third richest billionaire in the world, right? And there was
we've
like
talked about him before.
there was a bunch of
True
activists.
social democrat.
He's not a social democrat.
No, I know. I mean, like,
He hires weird people called Squarcini to like harass.
I'm not talking
newspapers.
Bernard.
Go on, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean like he hired so basically there was a bunch of activists who protest this like extreme like glamorous display of wealth in the middle of Paris. From the alter globalist organization called ATTAC, so left wing, anti tax fraud, and so basically Hidalgo immediately wrote a tweet saying, "Oh well, these activists, they're terrible. We should be celebrating Paris and opening this department store." It's like she's literally defending the third richest person in the world. Like you can't call yourself a socialist after that. So it's like.
Nope.
I mean, you know what? Champagne socialism, but to the strongest degree of the word.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Moet Hennessy shows socialism.
Exactly that, and it's not like champagne socialism, like the Champagne region of France. It's just like pure,
It is
pure champagne parties in
yeah.
Paris. Like it's exactly that. That's her style.
When it's in Paris, it's just sparkling socialism.
It's not champagne, only with
Anyway, so she also, she has pretty interventionist foreign policy views. What else? I mean, like she was not even endorsed by people in her own party. Like we talked about this, Manuel Valls, former. I guess I would say like the other last thing, very pro EU. Of course, bad position to take. I would say, given like EU austerity, these hitting Greece and Spain, etc. Like the EU is just not our friend. But you have these bad positions being taken also by Yannick Jadot. So Yannick Jadot is the Green candidate. They're only good on ecological issues, I would say, for the Green Party, because honestly they drop a lot of other things like foreign policy. They just basically copy and paste whatever America says, or now Germany, like doubling.
Exactly. The perfect copy and paste Atlantis' party is the German Green.
Yes.
So very similar for French for the French Green Party right now. Unfortunately, Yannick Jadot kind of looks up to the German Green Party and
disgusting pigs.
Yes.
NATO.
Yeah, exactly. So they used to be anti-NATO. They used to be like the French Greens used to be anti-NATO.
They used to be good Greens.
Like 10 years ago. Yeah, they used to be good. They used to, but still, kind of pro-EU. They merged with this party called Europe Ecologie. So unfortunately, since then, supporting all the treaties and not being realistic about changing the common agricultural policy, and because like the EU will never let that happen. The EU will just it's like almost 60% of their budget, right? So
it's like all we do.
Yeah,
it's just
basically, it's unfortunate, that they're still running. To be honest, because like they cut out that like 5% wedge that is really needed for the true left to get to the second round, and they're a really small party. Only about 100,000 people voted in their Green primary. So it was in 2 rounds. First round, it was actually almost evenly split between like 4 people. So you had like Jadot.
I'm fucking looking at that. It's literally 29,000, 26,000, 23,000, 23,000.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
No, they could not decide on who they were.
Yeah, so the Greens are known for being really contradictory in their own organization because they just...
It's the same with our Greens, actually. Yeah. It seems to be a Green thing to do.
So I guess we can very briefly talk about the popular primary because we've actually talked about that quite a bit on this podcast because it was kind of farcical, in my opinion. Just like this, I understand the drive towards it, but it was... I have made my opinions known. I have no respect for it. And Tabira now has dropped out. She wasn't able to get the signatures, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So, she was... from the Radical Left Party, which is actually a center-left party that basically she was in first place in this so-called popular primary that was a poll taken by 400,000 people. So they missed many of their objectives that they set for themselves, and they thought they would get a lot more people participating in the primary. But unfortunately, it was very few. So the popular primary is it's an online poll that people can enter their bank detail, and they can enter, like, literally you have to sign up with your credit card number to be able to participate.
That sounds like a scam.
Oh, this is going to come back. There's going to be like an investigative documentary series in 10 years.
No. Okay, so they don't. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to pay anything, but you still have to have a credit card.
Credit card.
But it was supposed to unite the forces of the left, right? The Greens, the Communists,
by giving
the Socialists.
them all a credit card.
It was supposed to unite all the candidates of the left in a primary that was supposed to designate one person, because seen as, the far right is so strong, that Macron is like so strong, we need to have a united left candidacy. So first of all, this has a lot of problems for a lot of reasons. A lot of people don't know about the popular primary. Unfortunately, I have some respect for that, because like a lot of these people I know in person in Paris, because like a lot of these people are activists and professional climate activists that were based in Paris. And so, I don't want to say, because at the end of the day, they tried their hardest. A lot of people really do believe in that movement, and they just didn't meet it. They just didn't get, if it was like maybe 2 million, 3 million people participating in this primary, it would be maybe a different story. But they didn't get enough people. They got first place for Christiane Taubira, center left, kind of lukewarm on everything, basically had no real program. You had like Jadot of the Greens coming in second, and then Mélenchon actually came in third, even though he was against it. So you also had Jadot saying that he would have paid €100,000 to win to stop the primary from happening. So that was like a little mini scandal that.
Wow. Yeah.
So the Greens are not, really so pure as we might think. But the popular primary, after realizing that, Christiane Taubira is not going to get the signatures that she needs to present herself in the first round, they said they would just support Mélenchon because he's the next best thing. The decision was supposed, according to them, was taken democratically with their membership, but they didn't do a revote. So some people are kind of up in, a little bit conflicted about that. So, anyways, Climat Populaire now supports Mélenchon. We can before talking about Mélenchon, maybe we can talk about the Communist Party. So we have Fabien Roussel, of the candidate of the Communist Party in France.
Not a good one.
He was designated as their candidate by 20,000 members in a vote, and so they decided to not support Mélenchon again this time after doing so in 2012 and 2017. So there's still like some communists that support Mélenchon, just strategically and even maybe for ideological reasons. So you have like the former Secretary General of the Communist Party, Pierre Laurent, who supports him. You also have Printemps Communist Spring, which is a tendency, and so they support him, etc. But Fabien Roussel, I would say, is like basically a protest candidate in the left. I would say there's reasons that people don't like La France Insoumise. So some people really, are really up in arms about laïcité and, Republican values and respecting the universal appeal of the Republic and stuff like this. And they say Mélenchon, he kind of flirts too much with anti-colonialism or anti-racism or anti-Islamophobia. Maybe this is not fair to those movements, but there's these movements called the Citizens Republican Movement and the Republican Movement of the Socialist Left, and they really support Roussel because they think Mélenchon, he did represent a good left-wing alternative for them, and then he just started... it was just like petty left-wing...
Being anti-racist.
No, it's just like petty left-wing stuff of like, you don't believe in my exact philosophy of, the way I see human rights in this particular framework of, et cetera. And so, maybe they would say they have other differences, like, they're more pro-nuclear. So they supported this guy initially, those movements, they supported this guy initially called Arnaud Montebourg, who is almost the same as Mélenchon, except less popular, and he's more pro-nuclear. And so there's like very small differences. But now they're supporting Roussel because he takes that place in the left-wing scene. So he seeks to appeal to those disenchanted with Mélenchon. The only differences with Mélenchon are really, the major differences are like nuclear energy, and then there's a bunch of like small things that we can maybe list, like, but it's really just nuclear energy. Like 90% of the votes in the National Assembly between La France Insoumise and the Communist Party are the same, except, ecological issues. And, Roussel says that he wants to, stop punitive ecology, and he, wants to come back to a time when French people were eating good steak and French cheese and wine. And, he wants to appeal to white working class voters in the deindustrialized areas. So it's kind of
the steak thing has made its way internationally, that this is like a thing he's talking about a lot. I think also people saw, because this was him as well, the comrade, comrades.
If it were a...
There is this show that I have forgotten the name of, where basically every candidate in the election goes in front of school
yeah,
kids.
of course, I know that one. Yeah.
And do a thing. And
the Stalin one?
Yeah, this
exactly.
Is yeah. Where he was asked to like say, okay, which one of these people are actually comrades? He was pretty clear on Kim Jong-un, not a comrade. And Fidel Castro was in the comrade section. I believe he placed Stalin in the exact middle.
In the middle, yeah,
he was like,
exactly.
I'm not sure about that.
Complicated historical figure.
Yes, exactly. This is me in the version of a television show.
This is like your segment on Sendung mit der Maus.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's gotten a bit of international attention. We're running a bit low on time, so I think we should probably move to Mélenchon and then wrap it up. There are a lot of other good cast of characters, and we will talk about them over the coming days. But we need to go. So
all right, for
Mélenchon.
sure, yeah. So okay, this is the third time that Mélenchon is running. I would say there's a lot of factors that make it the best time, because he's on the rise in the polls right now. He recently got about 17% in a recent poll. Like aggregators show him in third place consistently since I think it was like 2 weeks ago. He's been at third place consistently, and basically I would say what's strong about Mélenchon is that he synthesizes a bunch of different tendencies of the radical left. So left populists, ecologists, anarchists, Trotskyists, communists, Euro-communists, just a bunch of people that are from all over the place. And so that's like our version of syncretism for the left, right? It's, this is the dream that the far right had with, getting together the monarchists, getting together the Republicans. But we need to have, we have all these petty debates on the radical left, between anarchists or communists, but like we need to have one solid candidacy. And I think Mélenchon is really, strategically positioning himself as the representative of all these movements. So he has a lot of like professional experience. In his time in the Socialist Party, he was a minister of professional education. He also, he did the right thing. He exited the Socialist Party in 2009 after the crisis, and then like he spent 10 years campaigning against it. He's been like pretty, hardcore as an opponent against the Socialist Party, and bringing us back to real left-wing values, keeping our promises, etc. And he's also inoculated against a lot of political attacks. He has the experience. He has the campaigning experience as well, because like media can be really difficult to manage. A lot of people have been hit by scandals, like Fabien Roussel, for example. We found out that he had a fictional job as a parliamentary assistant in the early 2000s. So
yes,
he got like little scandals here and there. Jadot trying to pay off the Primaire Populaire, whatever.
French politicians love making up jobs for themselves and their wives. It's great.
Exactly. So we basically have almost none of that. We have one thing on Mélenchon. In 2018, he yelled too loudly at a police officer. Right.
That's fucking good. That's cool.
Great.
So was this the
literally? It was. We can go into that whole story later, but basically, the media likes to replay this clip of him being really aggressive and angry and yelling too much. That's the only downside of Mélenchon. Honestly, like polls show that people are really for a lot of things in his program. Right. You have like things like creating 1.5 million green jobs, 100% renewable energy by 2050, nationalizing generalist banks, nationalizing the energy department, EDF, Énergie de France, nationalizing all the railways, nationalizing the highways. So it's like not a social democratic platform. I would say it's pretty radical, right? We're going to take the wealth of, people who make over 12 million euros we're going to redistribute this in a form of monthly allocation for like young people, raise the minimum wage, legalize cannabis, disarm the police, even disband entire sections of the police, which is, pretty good. Like our slogan in DSA is like, we want to abolish the police eventually and at least defund it right now. But like, given the French context of like authoritarianism, even on, some people on the center left, like, supporting the pro-police rally that happened like many months ago, Mélenchon like distinctively, did not go to that, and along with other like far left candidates like Philippe Poutou, right? So we gotta
Philip kisses.
We gotta say like
that one, okay. Yeah.
Basically, Mélenchon has a relatively radical platform that is also realistic, and you have like a lot of things that are very precise. There's over 600 unique propositions in his platform, right? And he's been running on it since 2016, where it was aggregated by a lot of activists, social movements, NGOs, but also unions and working people, right? So I guess we can talk a little bit about foreign policy, since it's been, pretty important recently with Ukraine and etc. Mélenchon has always been anti-NATO, and now that's actually still a good position to take, because, non-alignment means that we're not necessarily neutral. We recognize Russia and its invasion of Ukraine is just bad. Like, the current ruling government in Russia needs to be, deposed by a democratic socialist, force that, maybe is not very present right now, but actually, La France Insoumise and Mélenchon have supported, in the past, we've supported the Left Front and some activists that were put in prison by Putin's government, and now we actually support the coalition of socialists against the war. So we have ties to left-wing movements that are that have been put in prison by Putin, and it makes no sense that some like Atlantis, center-left people like Hidalgo are criticizing Mélenchon for being a so-called agent of Putin, right? That's
so actually. I just want to talk about in the French context. One of the funniest things I saw with that, which was Jadot of the Green Party's threw that criticism against Mélenchon, and it was very funny because people then asked him immediately afterwards. But Mélenchon's position is the position of the European Greens when it comes to not abolishing NATO, but the position of immediately go to peace talks. Don't send weapons, that kind of thing, and Jadot just had no answer for this. This also happened at the animal fair. It was very funny.
Yeah, and he was Jadot was I saw Mélenchon pass. He posted the Z. I saw it.
No, but this is the same that they already did in 2017 when they accused him of being an anti-Semite.
Yes,
for being pro.
It was working on Corbyn.
Exactly. It's a typical thing that people do, because he is quite outspoken on being pro-Palestine.
He was also very outspoken on how Corbyn handled that, because you did mention Mélenchon has his media training, and a part of that seems to be just ceding no ground to false narratives about him, just being incredibly tough on that kind of stuff.
You do remember that they did legitimately try this against Bernie Sanders as well. The anti-Semitism
there was
thing.
Yes, they did.
They dipped their toe.
Every
leftist
leftist candidate that is pro-Palestine is automatically an anti-Semite.
Yeah. They also do
even if you're Jewish.
Bernie Sanders, the most notorious Jewish anti-Semite there is.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's amazing.
But it doesn't even have to be about Palestine. It can just be oh, you think that the society is controlled by special interests? Well, that must mean.
I know. Yeah.
But back to the foreign policy, because you also have another thing in here that we did an episode about recently, being against the CFA franc.
So Mélenchon is one of the only candidates to have a position against the CF, like on Africa, like in the program, we just have like a bunch of stuff on Africa, and like no one else has like all this like really specific stuff. Anyways, basically,
Africa is ours. That's the position, basically. Like, we own Africa.
Let's
do what we want there.
Like, the Central African franc is the currency used in a lot of West African countries. They have like the monetary reserves here in France, which is extremely strange because like it's only used in Africa, but everything is in France.
That's weird.
And all their economies suck, and they're extremely dependent on France. So basically, CFA is bad. We should just get rid of it and allow them to have their own monetary freedom. But, we're also against supporting African dictatorships, like in Chad, because they supply a lot of our uranium. Macron had just, made trips to Chad to say what's up to the dictator, after the recent Idriss Déby, after Idriss Déby died, his son got put in power. And so Macron immediately just flew over there to go say his condolences and etc. It's just disgusting.
While I'm here, can I just pick up some uranium?
Oh my
Thanks.
God.
Yeah, he does the beginning of The Simpsons where he like loses it on the way back.
What is colonialism?
Yeah, and
plutonium rods just roll on all the way back home.
Back to France.
Exactly. So basically, like whether it be, selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, India, Egypt, or other like authoritarian governments, Macron just always, hypocritically supports authoritarian rule. And then just like, these same liberals criticize Mélenchon for being like pro-Putin just because he's anti-NATO. Like, obviously we're not pro-Putin, we're just anti-NATO. And
it's also just like, that's the dictator I've heard of.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that is just like, I know Putin's name.
I don't care about what's happening.
Who's in charge of Egypt? Jafar? Okay, whatever. like, they don't know.
I think it's still Al-Sisi, but I could be completely wrong.
But like, Putin just has the name recognition, so it sucks.
Yeah, see, I'm a little bit more, hipster with it, where I'm just overtly pro Lukashenko.
Yeah, Lukashenko is the OG.
Yeah.
Maybe they call him Europe's last dictator.
Exactly, right? I don't hear
poser. Putin comes in the late 90s, early 2000s. Lukashenko's been there since 91. God damn it.
Sorry.
It's just very similar things are happening in everywhere, basically. Like the invasion by Russia, like every other crisis in the global stage, is just the worst columnists are just like, oh, I can beat the left with this. Let's go. It doesn't matter what it is. Like,
but I would just like finish on a good note for Mélenchon by saying like he's for outer globalization. There's like so many times where the left is just like, oh, we're gonna lose, from the beginning. It's like it's pretty bleak for us. But actually, look at Latin America. Like, I don't know, we won in Peru, we won in Chile. Overall, I mean, there is a left-wing I think that, after COVID, people are searching for solutions on the left. Like even the push towards like social democracy in certain countries in Western Europe is still a little bit part of that trend because like conservative governments suck so bad. And there is a chance that Mélenchon could actually make it to the second round. I really do believe that we're on that path. Marine Le Pen, she always polls consistently lower. She always has like consistently lower results than she polls, and even on a regional level, we saw that in the elections last year. But
they won nothing.
Yeah, but like the whole like international left is a little bit, we need to have a good story of victory in somewhere in Western Europe, right? So Italy, the left is dead. Spain, I
think politics in general are dead in Italy. There is only Draghi. History has ended.
And Berlusconi.
Finally.
I mean, in 2019, lost with Corbyn, etc. So we got to have something, right? So people are counting on Mélenchon. 10 former ex-presidents of the Latin American left have endorsed Mélenchon. Lula, Dilma Rousseff, even though there's like some problems with, their program for the environment, right? But like overall, people are looking towards Mélenchon like because he's a sort of beacon of hope for what is left of the left in Western Europe. And so I would say, things are looking good. We are doing, we're going up in the polls. So I would just leave it at that. there's reason to be hopeful. We shouldn't let our despair, go down for us. And I would refer some, maybe plug some people, but Cole Stangler, frequent Jacobin contributor, he recently, and one of y'all's guests for the podcast, he recently published a piece in Foreign Policy saying that Mélenchon versus Macron would be a much better round 2 than Macron versus Le Pen, right? So there's reason to be hopeful, I would say. It would be better to have the left in the second round.
Would be great.
Absolutely. And I think on that note, I think we can wrap it up. Flo, where can people find you, or do you have anything to shout out?
I just want to shout out La France Insoumise in itself. Maybe if you wanna see more in depth stuff about like the political program of Mélenchon or the movement, you go to laec.fr. And just Google Translate that, or Le Monde en Commun.info. I'll provide you with the link, but there's some English pieces that you can find about like our foreign policy views or whatever, and also DSA in France. So I know DSA is going through a bit of a rough patch, and there's some things that could be improved in DSA, but overall it's still the largest US-based socialist organization, and so if you want to contribute to it, or if you're living in France right now, type in DSA in France in Facebook or Twitter, and you'll find us there. So I just thanks to Corner Späti for this opportunity, for like bearing with me for like 2 hours. Nick, you said France is a nerd country. I definitely probably proved that to be right.
I only deal with the hot countries like Germany.
What the hell? I think
there's one thing that I want to leave us with before we go, because in true Nick fashion, we have to make this about fashion now, because Kieran thinks I'm a fashion hoe.
You're such a fashion hoe.
So one of the things that I found out is that then the largest union in France, CGT, has merch, and they're kind of ridiculous. And one of them is a bedazzled hat.
Shows to the camera.
Yes.
Yes. Holy damn.
It's a bedazzled denim baseball cap.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Hell yeah.
So if anyone wants me, to get me something for my housewarming present, I'm feeling my Ed Hardy vibes coming. I think this hat would very much suit it.
And a little bit of shout out for the show. Unfortunately, we weren't able to make it to France because Paris has zero chill, and none of the
get me that hat, and they won't.
They'll let you in anyway. I'm doing a show, and I was like, well, he's got a hat, so yeah, I guess.
That's bedazzled.
Yeah, the venues didn't get back to us, so unfortunately we couldn't make it to France, but we will be doing live streams for both rounds of the French election. First being this Sunday, 7 p.m. at twitch.tv/Corner Späti. We will be doing a live stream. I have some French friends in this city who have agreed to give me all the candidates' materials that have been posted to them by the French government.
Oh yeah,
oh, beautiful.
They got them in the mail. There's like a package.
Yeah, I'm ready.
I'm going to be judging font choice, picture choice.
yes. Show me the most beautiful one.
I'm going to talk about.
They're all frightening.
No, the Macron one.
Macron's a very big picture of his face.
Yes.
This is the most beautiful one.
Yeah.
Most far left.
The Lascelles one looks like a conservative suit tailoring brand.
Yes,
yeah. It's very
we'll see these all like live on TV. We can't ruin it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So join us for the live streams for on the 10th and 24th, 7 p.m. European time, twitch.tv/Corner Späti. We might have some phone-in guests who know France better than us. I will just probably be laughing at Lascelles, a character we didn't get to talk about, but I will on the stream. Oh, I will.
You will.
The suburbs, they crave violence, and that violence is Lascelles. So, with that, I want to thank Flo once again for coming on and talking to us about the French elections, and we will have Flo back on to explain what happened after the French elections. If Flo...
if you want.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah. We talked about it before. I think it's okay. And with that, we will see you on the main feed on Monday. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, y'all.